If all satellites stopped working at once, 8,000 GPS, communication, weather, and military satellites going dark simultaneously, modern civilization wouldn't explode, it would just regress 30 years overnight as financial systems freeze, supply chains collapse, power grids destabilize, and recovery takes 3 to 5 years minimum to rebuild what was lost in an instant. You wake up Tuesday morning. Your phone shows no signal. Not weak signal, 0 bars. You try to load GPS for your commute. Offline. Turn on the TV. Local channels work. Satellite channels? Black screen. Something is wrong. Within the first hour, the fractures appear. International phone calls that route through satellites die mid-conversation. Ships crossing the Pacific lose contact with their companies. Airlines can't communicate with planes over oceans. Pilots switch to backup radio, but the frequencies are crowded and antiquated. Military loses secure channels to forces deployed overseas. Remote villages in Alaska, northern Canada, Pacific Islands, anywhere that depends on satellite phones go completely silent. The internet slows to a crawl because undersea cables exist, but they weren't built to handle all global traffic. They're overflow routes, not primary infrastructure. News networks can't broadcast live from conflict zones. Within 60 minutes, global communication fractures into isolated regional islands. You're still connected to people in your city. Everyone else might as well be on another planet. Hour 2 brings the navigation crisis. GPS satellites don't just tell you where you are, they provide timing signals, precise clock synchronization down to billionths of a second. When GPS dies, every system relying on that timing breaks. Your phone's map app stops working, obviously, but so does everything else. Shipping companies lose track of cargo containers mid-ocean. Modern ships navigate using GPS. Most don't carry updated paper charts because GPS made them obsolete. Captains pull out compasses and old maps, but the maps are 10 years out of date and ocean currents have shifted. Delivery trucks lose routing systems. Drivers revert to memory and paper maps, but modern logistics optimized routes using algorithms. Without GPS, drivers guess. Emergency services can't pinpoint your location when you call. They ask for your address. If you're on a highway or in a park, you have to describe landmarks. Precision farming equipment that uses GPS to plant crops in perfectly straight lines stops working. Construction projects using GPS measurements halt. Surveying crews can't do their jobs. By hour 12, the financial system seizes. Banks use GPS timestamps to sequence transactions globally. Stock markets use GPS timing to order high-frequency trades, computers buying and selling stocks in thousandths of a second. When satellites fail, transaction timing becomes unreliable. If Bank A sends money to Bank B, but the timestamps don't match, neither bank knows which transaction happened first. Errors cascade. To prevent catastrophic mistakes, banks freeze international transfers, stock markets halt trading. ATMs run out of cash within hours because people panic withdraw, and armored trucks can't navigate to restock them without GPS. Even if trucks arrive, banks can't authorize refills remotely. The communication satellites are dead. Credit card verification stops working. You swipe your card, the reader can't contact the bank to confirm you have money. Transaction declined. By the end of the first day, the global economy isn't moving. Money exists, it just can't flow. Day 3 is when grocery stores empty. Modern supply chains run on just-in-time delivery. Stores don't stockpile food in back rooms anymore. Trucks deliver fresh shipments daily, and GPS tracking coordinates every movement. When GPS fails, shipping companies lose visibility. They don't know where their trucks are. Ports can't coordinate container movements. Thousands of containers sitting in stacks, and nobody knows which one has medicine, which has food, which has electronics. Warehouses can't track inventory. The food exists, the trucks exist, but logistics is blind. Delivery schedules collapse. Grocery stores expect daily restocks. When trucks don't arrive on day 2, shelves start to thin. By day 3, produce sections are empty, meat and dairy gone, bread aisles stripped. It's not a food shortage, it's a coordination failure. Fuel deliveries miss schedules, so gas stations run dry. Hospitals burn through supply reserves. Pharmacies can't restock medications. The system doesn't collapse because goods vanish. It collapses because nobody knows where anything is or how to route it without GPS coordination. You're the logistics coordinator for a major city. Trucks are stuck at distribution centers because drivers don't know routes. Warehouse inventory systems are offline. You have 3 critical shipments: medical supplies for hospitals, fuel for ambulances, and food for nursing homes. All 3 are sitting in your warehouse. You have enough fuel to send trucks for 1 delivery. The other 2 wait. Which do you prioritize? Hospitals need medicine or patients die within days. Ambulances need fuel or emergency response stops within hours. Nursing homes need food or vulnerable people starve within a week. There's no right answer. You choose who suffers. Think about it right now. What would you pick? Most coordinators chose hospitals first. Patients died anyway because ambulances couldn't reach them without fuel. This is what satellite failure creates: impossible choices where every option has body counts. By day 7, power grids destabilize. Electrical grids across countries synchronize using GPS timing. Power plants generate electricity at precise frequencies, 60 cycles per second in the US, 50 in Europe. When multiple plants feed into the same grid, they must synchronize their frequency output perfectly. GPS provides that synchronization. When satellites fail, grid operators lose precise timing. Frequencies drift by fractions of a cycle. Small variations cascade. One region's frequency mismatch affects neighboring regions. Automatic safety systems detect the instability and shut down sections of the grid to prevent damage. Rolling blackouts begin. Backup coordination methods exist: ground-based radio signals, manual adjustments, but they're slower and less reliable. Within a week, power becomes intermittent in many regions because grids can't balance load efficiently without satellite timing. It's not a generation problem. Power plants still produce electricity. It's a coordination problem. The electricity can't be distributed smoothly. Weather satellites disappear, and meteorologists go blind. Real-time storm tracking ends. Satellites watch hurricanes form over the Atlantic, track their paths, predict landfall 5 days in advance. Without satellites, forecasters rely on ground stations, weather balloons, and radar. Radar only sees storms when they're close, maybe 200 kilometers away. Hurricane warnings shrink from 5 days to 2 days. Tornado warnings become less precise. Farmers can't predict frost or drought with accuracy. Crop yields drop because planting schedules were optimized using satellite weather data. Climate scientists lose the ability to monitor global temperature changes, ice melt, deforestation. Within 3 weeks, a major hurricane forms over the ocean. Meteorologists don't see it until it's 12 hours from landfall. Evacuations start too late. Highways gridlock. Coastal cities flood. Casualties spike because warning time was cut by 70%. The storm wasn't stronger. The blindness was. Rebuilding takes years because satellites are complex machines built in clean rooms by specialized teams. Each GPS satellite takes 6 months to build. Each communication satellite takes longer. Earth has 8,000 active satellites providing GPS, communication, weather, and military services. Replacing them requires hundreds of rocket launches. SpaceX, the most prolific launcher, completes roughly 50 launches per year. At that pace, replacing 8,000 satellites takes over a decade, and that assumes every launch succeeds, no other missions compete for rockets, and production runs at maximum capacity. Even if governments declare an emergency and prioritize satellite replacement above everything else, rebuilding the constellation takes 3 to 5 years minimum. During that time, civilization functions at 1980s technology levels. Communication is regional. Navigation uses paper maps and compasses. Financial systems slow to pre-digital speeds. Supply chains become local. Some systems adapt. Many don't recover to pre-collapse efficiency for a decade. Final question. You're the space agency director. Rebuilding 8,000 satellites takes years and costs hundreds of billions. You can't launch them all at once. You must sequence production. Do you prioritize GPS satellites first, so navigation and financial systems work? Communication satellites, so the internet and phones work globally? Or weather satellites, so you can predict storms and save lives? Each choice leaves critical infrastructure crippled for years. GPS restores the economy, but leaves weather forecasting blind. Communication restores coordination, but leaves banks frozen. Weather saves lives in the short term, but leaves the economy paralyzed. You can't build all three simultaneously. Manufacturing and launch capacity are limited. What order do you choose? There's no correct answer. Every priority kills people in different ways. This is the mathematics of dependency. Modern civilization requires all three systems working simultaneously. Losing any one causes permanent degradation until it's restored. Satellites are invisible infrastructure. You never see them, you never think about them, but your phone, your money, your food supply, and your electricity all depend on machines orbiting 600 kilometers above your head. When they disappear, civilization doesn't collapse into chaos. It just stops working the way it has for 30 years. The world functions like 1985 again. Slower, clumsier, more isolated, and nobody under 40 remembers how to operate in that world. The technology that made modern life effortless also made it fragile. Remove the invisible backbone and everything stumbles.